You wake without knowing where you are. The ground is unfamiliar beneath your hands, sometimes cool stone, sometimes rough earth, sometimes silk sheets that smell of another century. The air around you carries scents you cannot place, burnt offerings, smoke from fires long gone cold, perfumes of flowers that have no name in your time. Each morning you open your eyes and you are elsewhere. Another day, another age, another world that has already died once. And always there is the same curse. You know what is coming. You know the fate of these people, their hunger, their wars, their mistakes that will hollow them from within. You know they will fall, and you carry that knowledge like a burden, though no one here will ever believe you. So you wander. You eat their food. You sleep on their floors. You listen to their laughter, and you feel their sorrow. And you wonder, again and again, the question that has followed you across centuries. If civilization so mighty can fall, what does that mean for your own? Sleep feels different now. It is no longer rest, but passage, a door you cannot choose to close. When your eyes fall shut, time unravels, and when they open again, you are never where you once were. You have no map, no control, no promise of return. The first time it happened, you thought it was a dream. You woke in the heat of a desert, sand in your mouth, the Nile glittering like a silver vein across the horizon. You tasted bread baked thousands of years before your birth, and the people who shared it with you did not know their pyramids would one day crumble. You tried to tell them, but they only laughed. And so it continued. Every sleep became a fall through centuries. Greece, where philosophers argued as though truth itself might crack open the sky. The Maya, who watched the stars with a precision that still humbles you. Villages in the vast Americas, where families lived close to earth, unaware of the storms that would sweep them away. Rome swollen with pride and crumbling at its edges, London choking on its own smoke, whispering of progress and poverty all at once. You learned quickly that you could not save them. No matter what you said, no matter what you warned, history moved on without mercy. But you could walk among them. You could taste what they tasted. You could feel the weight of their nights, their fears, their joys. And in those moments, you realized that civilizations do not fall in silence. They fall in footsteps, in laughter, in whispered prayers before bed. And now, as your eyes drift closed again, you feel the shiver of passage, the slow slide into another body, another place. Somewhere a people are still building, still dreaming, still unaware that the end is already written. And you are about to wake there.
You wake to the sound of water lapping against reeds. The air is heavy, warm and damp with the scent of the Nile. Somewhere close by, a heron calls out, its wings beating against the morning light. For a moment, you think you are dreaming. But then the heat presses against your skin, the sand clings to your arms, and you realize, no, this is real. You have fallen into another day in another world. And this time, you are in Egypt. The sun has barely risen, yet already the air feels thick, like a hand resting on your chest.
You are lying on a mat of woven reeds, its fibers scratching your skin, its smell earthy and faintly sour from river water. Around you men and women stir. They rise slowly, stretching backs already aching from yesterday's work. The sound of coughing cuts through the silence. Dust rises with every movement. Bread is passed around, a flat, rough loaf that crumbles easily in your hands. It tastes sour, coarse, with a grit of sand between your teeth from flour ground on stone. A clay cup follows, filled with thick, slightly sour beer. It is cloudy, foamy at the top, and smells faintly like wet straw. This is breakfast, and this is enough. When you step outside, the sky is vast and merciless. The sun, only half risen, already blinds you with its glare. Workers gather, carrying baskets, ropes, and tools. They march in groups toward the temple construction site rising on the horizon. Massive blocks of limestone, stacked like stairways to the gods. Their skin glistens with sweat, though the day has barely begun. You hear their chants, rhythmic and low, a song to keep time as they move in unison. You follow them. And as you walk, the smells of Egypt wrap around you. Wet mud of the riverbank, smoke from morning fires, the sharp tang of sweat, the faint perfume of lotus drifting from the water. A boy runs past you, barefoot, carrying a basket of onions. He trips, drops one, and when he bends to pick it up, you notice his hands, thin, raw, hardened. He looks no older than 10. His eyes meet yours for a moment, curious, then dart away. At the work site, the world is noise. Stone grinds against stone, ropes creak, men shout orders. You watch workers drag heavy blocks across sand, pouring water to ease the slide, groaning with effort. Overseers with whips bark commands. Sweat runs down bodies, dripping into the dust, leaving dark stains on the ground. One man collapses, just falls, his body crumpling in the sand. No one stops for long. A glance, a shake of the head, then the chant resumes. The man is dragged to the side, left in the thin shade of a wall. You want to shout, to protest, to demand mercy, but your throat tightens. You know something they do not. This empire, with all its gods and stones, will not last forever. And yet, no one will believe you. You try once, quietly, speaking to a woman who brings water jars to the workers. The floods. One day the Nile will fail you. The river will not rise as it should. There will be famine. People will starve. She laughs softly, thinking you are making a strange joke. The Nile is eternal, she says, as if that is answer enough. She hands you the jar, and the water tastes of silt, warm and metallic. You want to tell her more, how the wealth of Egypt will shrink, how outsiders will come, how the power of pharaohs will crumble under the weight of corruption and hunger. But you know, her smile, kind, tired, unconcerned, means she will never believe you. At midday, the heat becomes unbearable. The air shimmers. Workers wrap cloths around their heads, squinting under the blaze. In the shade of a mud brick wall, you are offered food. A small basket with dried fish, sharp and salty, onions pungent enough to sting your eyes, and another coarse loaf. Flies buzz constantly. You wave them away, but they return, relentless. Around you the men eat quickly, with the hunger of people who know their work will resume before their stomachs have settled. Jokes are shared. soft laughter rippling despite the exhaustion. One man speaks of his daughter's wedding, how he saved onions and bread to make the feast special. Another boasts of catching a fat catfish in the Nile. Even here, under the sun's cruelty, there is life, hope, pride. You smile with them, and yet, in your heart, you carry the knowledge. This pride, this laughter, this trust in eternity will not save them. As night falls, the air cools, though the ground still radiates heat. The workers return to their reed huts, their voices hushed now, their bodies dragging with fatigue. Fires crackle. The smell of lentil stew drifts through the dark. You are given a bowl. The stew is thin, almost watery, but flavored with garlic and herbs. You sip slowly, the warmth settling in your stomach. Children chase each other between the huts, laughing, until a sharp voice sends them inside. When the fires die down, darkness settles heavy and absolute. The stars above the Nile blaze brighter than you have ever seen. The sound of crickets hums through the reeds. Bodies stretch out on mats, side by side, wrapped in linen cloths. Some snore softly. Some murmur in dreams. The air smells of smoke, sweat, and the faint sweetness of river flowers carried by the wind. And then you lie there, staring at the stars, unable to sleep. Your mind is restless. You think of what you know, how Egypt's greatness will not last forever, how drought will come, the Nile failing to flood, leaving fields cracked and empty, how the wealth of priests and elites will grow while farmers starve, how foreign powers, Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, will all claim Egypt as their own. You imagine telling them, shaking them awake, shouting, "You are not eternal. No empire is. All of this, your temples, your gods, your stone, will one day be ruins buried in sand." But you do not, because you know they will not believe you. Because to them the Nile is eternal, and the Pharaoh is God, and tomorrow is only another day. And so you close your eyes, the weight of knowledge pressing against your chest, heavier than stone. Why Egypt fell. Too much trust in the Nile's floods, and when the river failed, so did the fields. A society where the poor built monuments while the rich feasted. Invasions, conquests, corruption, and the slow crumbling of a system too rigid to bend. The great empire of stone fell not with an earthquake, but with the slow erosion of hunger, pride, and time. And you were there for one day, a witness, powerless. You wake on another day, in another place, to the sound of sandals scuffing stone. A marketplace hums around you, the Athenian agora, alive with shouts, laughter, and the clatter of pottery. The air smells of olives and figs, roasted barley bread, and the faint tang of smoke rising from braziers. For a moment, you are dazzled by the sunlight reflecting off whitewashed walls and the sudden chorus of voices all speaking at once. Greece, Athens, a place where ideas are traded as easily as goods, where men debate gods and justice while slaves carry baskets behind them. You stand barefoot on warm stone, the dust clinging to your toes. The morning is alive with bargaining. 3 olives for 1 drachma! A jug of oil for your fish! The voices rise, clash, overlap. A woman thrusts figs at you, their purple skins splitting with sweetness. She presses one into your hand. When you bite, juice spills across your lips, sticky and rich. Nearby, a boy chases a goat through the crowd, laughter echoing until a merchant curses, waving his arms. Someone strums a lyre, the notes bright and playful. Around you, men gather in circles, their words sharp as blades, their arguments tossed like stones across the Athenian agora. Laughter, chanting, and the rhythmic tapping of sandals on stone rise and fall. It feels like the center of the world, buzzing with questions of justice and truth. Yet even here, in the brilliance of Greece, you sense the cracks spreading beneath its foundation. Beneath this noise, you hear something else, a murmur of politics, of war, of unease. Men in cloaks gather at the steps of a stoa, arguing fiercely. One raises his hand, his voice carrying, "Sparta will not wait forever!" You know the truth of it. You know that these voices, brave, proud, certain, are perched on the edge of ruin. By midday, the sun burns and the stones radiate heat. You follow the crowd into a shaded courtyard where food is shared. Bread dipped in olive oil, cheese sharp and crumbly, wine thinned with water, a bowl of lentils, earthy and soft. You taste the salt of the sea in olives, the sweetness of honey drizzled over curds. Men recline as they eat, laughing, their gestures wide. But the slaves who serve them stand silently, eyes down, careful not to linger. Their hands are raw from labor, their tunics coarse and patched. No one thanks them. You sit among them, listening. They speak of theater plays mocking politicians, of philosophers asking strange questions, of gods who may or may not exist. The laughter is infectious, but beneath it you feel a tremor, like a vase too finely made. You clear your throat, daring to speak. Be careful. Democracy is fragile. Your wars will undo you. Your pride will blind you. A man chuckles, clapping your shoulder. "Stranger, you sound like a philosopher, but we are Athens. We are eternal." The others laugh with him, and once again you are dismissed. As the day wanes, you wander through narrow streets. Homes of clay and stone cluster close together. Women kneel grinding grain, their arms strong, their backs bent. Children play in the dust with clay figurines, their laughter quick and high. Smoke rises from kitchens, grilled fish, garlic, herbs, the aroma clinging to the air. You duck inside a small dwelling when a family gestures kindly for you to join them. Dinner is simple, barley bread, stewed greens, a little goat's milk cheese. They eat seated on low stools, passing the bowl around. A girl sings softly while her mother braids her hair. The father speaks of the assembly, how men argue over money for war. When you ask, "But what if the wars never end? What if Athens falls?" He looks at you strangely, then smiles, as if humoring a child. "Athens cannot fall. The gods favor us." But you know better. You know the wars will drag on, bleeding resources, pitting neighbor against neighbor. You know plague will sweep through the city, carried on crowded ships, killing rich and poor alike. You know democracy will crack, replaced by demagogues and tyrants. And there, in that humble house, you realize no one wants to hear the future. It is easier to believe in eternity. Night descends with the scent of oil lamps burning. You lie on a rough pallet, stuffed with straw, beneath a thin wool blanket. The sounds of Athens drift through the dark. Dogs barking, laughter from a tavern, distant music from a flute. The floor is hard, the blanket itchy, the air heavy with the smell of smoke and sweat. You cannot sleep. Your mind turns over what you know, that Athens, jewel of the Aegean, will be undone by endless war with Sparta. that democracy, fragile as glass, will shatter under the weight of pride and faction, that disease will sweep through the city, killing even leaders like Pericles, leaving chaos in its wake, that the philosophers who dream of truth will be condemned by their own people, their questions too dangerous. You shift on the hard pallet, staring at the flickering shadows cast by the dying lamp. Around you, the family breathes evenly, at peace in their belief that tomorrow will be another day of olives, bread, and laughter. And once again, you are left with silence, your warnings swallowed by the night. Why Greece fell? Pride and endless warfare drained its strength. Democracy, so precious, collapsed under faction and corruption. Inequality left slaves voiceless, while elites debated freedoms that not all could share. Disease, invasion, and mistrust pulled the threads apart until the tapestry of Athens unraveled. What was left was not eternity, but ruins, stones that tourists of the future will marvel at, whispering how great they once were. And you were there for one day, listening, watching, powerless. You wake to the sound of drums, slow, steady, like a heartbeat echoing through stone. When you open your eyes, the world is green, an endless canopy of leaves, vines, and branches heavy with moisture. The air is thick, wet, alive with the hum of insects and the cries of birds hidden high above. Before you, a city rises out of the jungle. Temples of stone climb into the sky, their steps steep and narrow, painted with faded red and blue pigments. Smoke curls from fires, the scent of roasting maize, cacao, and burning copal resin fills your nose. You blink, dazed, and remember, you have fallen into yet another day in another world. This time, you are among the Maya. Pyramids of cut limestone rise through the jungle canopy like jagged teeth, their steps steep and unforgiving. Painted faces pass you, marked with jade and bright feathers, their eyes watchful. Drums echo in the distance, low and steady, like a heartbeat pulsing through the ground. You know this is the world of the Maya, majestic, thriving, yet trembling beneath the weight of hunger, gods, and war. You walk barefoot on warm stone. The ground is damp, soft moss clinging between the cracks. Women kneel beside baskets of maize, grinding kernels into dough with rhythmic scraping of stone on stone. The sound is constant, like the beating of waves. They shape the dough into flat cakes and toss them onto clay griddles. The smell of tortillas, nutty, earthy, comforting, rises into the air. A girl offers you one, warm from the fire. When you bite, it is simple but filling, smoky at the edges, the flavor of corn deep and rich. She laughs at your awkward hunger, her teeth white against her painted lips. Nearby, a man pours a drink, cacao whipped with chili and honey, dark and bitter, its foam frothing at the top. You sip, and it burns sweetly down your throat, both harsh and addictive. Life here is vibrant, intense. Colors flash everywhere, woven cloth dyed with indigo and cochineal red, feathers of parrots and quetzals glinting in the sun. The air hums with movement, children laughing, dogs barking, traders shouting. And above it all, those drums beat on. You follow the sound into the plaza. At the center stands a towering pyramid temple. The steps are steep, and priests in jaguar pelts climb slowly upward, their faces painted with black and red stripes. Smoke rises from braziers, carrying the thick, sweet scent of copal. People gather below, their voices hushed with awe. You feel unease because you know what comes next, and you are not wrong. A young man, bound but proud, is led forward. His chest glistens with sweat, his eyes fixed on the sky. He does not struggle. The crowd chants, the drums quicken. You know the story. Blood for the gods, to keep the sun rising, to keep the rains falling. When the knife flashes, you turn away. The cheer of the crowd rises anyway. The belief here is unshakable, that sacrifice keeps the world in balance. Without it, life itself would wither. You want to scream. It is not blood, but the soil, the water, the crops you must protect. The land is dying beneath your feet, but your voice would vanish in the roar of drums. By midday, the heat crushes you. The jungle air clings to your skin, heavy as wet cloth. Shade offers little relief. You are handed another tortilla, filled with beans and squash, sprinkled with pumpkin seeds. It is delicious, yet gritty with ash from the fire. Children chew roasted maize, their mouths ringed with soot. Farmers complain quietly of tired fields. Year after year, the maize grows smaller, weaker. They burn new plots in the jungle, pushing further into the forest, but the soil thins quickly, forcing them to move again. You hear the worry in their voices, though the priests say the gods will provide if the people remain faithful. That night, in a low hut roofed with palm leaves, you lie on a woven mat. The ground beneath is uneven, roots pressing into your back. Insects buzz endlessly. The air is hot and still, no breeze to cool you. A child coughs in the corner. Another whimpers in dreams. The family murmurs prayers to the maize god, asking for rain, asking for life. You close your eyes, but sleep is restless. Sweat beads on your skin, soaking the mat. The jungle feels alive around you, pressing in, whispering with every rustle of leaves. And in the darkness, your thoughts turn to what you know. That this world, vibrant and beautiful, will one day crumble. That the soil will fail under the weight of maize. That drought will stretch for years, the skies refusing to open. That wars between city-states will rage endlessly, each demanding more tribute, more blood. That hunger will gnaw through villages, turning brother against brother. That cities like this one will be swallowed by the jungle, their temples buried in vines, their voices silenced. And centuries later, strangers will stumble upon them, marveling at their mystery, wondering how such greatness could vanish. But you know the truth. And when you whisper it to a farmer resting in the shade, your soil cannot last, the droughts will come, you must change or you will starve. He only smiles wearily. The gods will send rain. And he goes back to sharpening his stone blade. Why the Maya fell? The land itself betrayed them, soil stripped bare, crops failing, drought burning the fields. Endless wars drained their strength. Rigid systems of tribute and sacrifice bound them too tightly, leaving no room for change. And when the rains failed, no god, no knife, no priest could bring them back. Their cities became ghosts, their temples reclaimed by vines, their voices silenced. And you were there. You saw their pride, their beauty, their faith, and you left knowing it would all be devoured by the jungle. You wake on another day in another place to the smell of smoke and wood. The air is cool, damp with morning mist. For a moment, you hear nothing but the whisper of wind through tall grasses. Then, slowly, the village around you stirs, the crackle of fires being fed, the creak of wooden frames, the low murmur of voices speaking in rhythms you don't fully understand, but somehow feel in your bones. You are lying on a bed of furs inside a long wooden lodge. The roof above is woven with bark and thatch, beams dark with smoke from seasons of fire. The air inside smells of ash, earth, and the faint musk of animal hides. Beside you, others are stirring, children yawning, elders coughing, a baby whimpering until soothed by a mother's song. When you step outside, the sky is wide, endless, painted with the pale blush of dawn. Around you, the village comes alive, women tending fires, men preparing bows and fishing nets, children carrying clay pots down to the stream. Dogs trot between huts, their tails wagging as they nose at scraps. Here, in this village of the Americas, the world feels simple, strong, and connected. But even here, shadows gather on the horizon, strangers who will not understand, storms of change no one can stop. The land stretches vast and open. Cornfields ripple in the breeze. Smoke curls from cooking fires, and all around, the forest waits, green and deep, its shadows humming with unseen life. Breakfast is simple, grounding. You are handed a bowl of cornmeal porridge, thick and warm, flavored with squash and a drizzle of honey. The sweetness lingers on your tongue, blending with the earthy taste of maize. A young boy offers you a roasted fish, its skin crisp, its flesh tender and smoky. You eat with your fingers, licking the salt and ash from your hands. Nearby, elders sit together, speaking quietly, their faces painted with years of wisdom. Children run and laugh, their feet pounding on the packed earth, while women weave baskets from reeds, their fingers swift and skilled. The day begins not with haste, but with rhythm. Life here is balance, planting, hunting, fishing, sharing. You feel it in the air, in the way people work together without command, each task part of a greater whole. And yet as you watch, you know what lies ahead for them. You know how fragile this balance is. You walk with hunters into the forest. The light filters through leaves, dappling the ground with shifting shadows. The air smells of pine and damp soil. Birds dart between branches, calling sharp notes. The hunters move silently, their bows ready, their eyes scanning for deer tracks. You try to match their quiet steps, but twigs snap under your feet. One of them smiles faintly, patient with your clumsiness. They track a deer. When it falls to an arrow, the silence is broken only by a whispered thanks to the spirit of the animal. They do not waste time. The deer is dressed, the meat carried back on strong shoulders. Nothing will be wasted. Meat for food, hide for clothing, sinew for cord, bones for tools. Back at the village, smoke rises again as the deer is prepared. The smell is rich, heavy, filling the air with a promise of feast. In the afternoon, you sit with women in the cornfields. They tend to the three sisters, maize, beans, and squash, growing together in harmony. The maize rises tall, the beans climb its stalks, the squash spreads wide to shade the soil. You run your fingers over the leaves, feeling the strength of this partnership. But as you listen, you hear their quiet worries, storms that flatten crops, winters that bite too hard, rival villages pressing at borders, and though they do not yet know it, sickness carried by strangers they have never seen. You want to shout a warning. Disease will come, carried on breath and skin. Wars will come, not just from neighbors, but from distant empires across the sea. Your world will change before you are ready. But when you whisper to one woman, as she pats down the soil around young maize shoots, your strength will not protect you from what comes. She only shakes her head gently. Our strength is the land. It will protect us. And she smiles, as though that is all the answer you need. That night, the village gathers. A fire burns bright in the center, sparks rising into the dark sky. People sit in circles, eating deer meat roasted on spits, drinking broth rich with marrow and roots. The air smells of smoke, meat, and sweet corn. The drums begin, deep, resonant, steady. Voices rise in song, low and strong, carrying into the night. You are given a place by the fire. A cup of warm drink is pressed into your hand, made from berries, sharp and tart. The children dance in circles, their shadows flickering against the lodge walls. Elders tell stories, voices weaving tales of ancestors, of spirits in the rivers and forests, of lessons learned and warnings remembered. The firelight glows on their faces, proud and alive. For a moment, you feel peace. But in the quiet between songs, you feel the weight of knowledge. You know these people, resilient, generous, bound to the land, will face a storm they cannot foresee. Disease will sweep through villages like fire, killing without mercy. Wars will follow, fueled by hunger for land and power. Displacement will scatter them, tearing apart traditions held for centuries. Their strength, real as it is, will be tested beyond what any community can bear. You lie down in the lodge once more, on soft furs, surrounded by the breathing of families close together. The air is thick with smoke, hides and bodies warmed by the fire. Outside, the forest hums with life, owls calling, crickets singing, the river whispering through the dark. And yet you do not sleep easily. You stare into the shadows, listening to the steady breathing of those around you, and wonder how long their voices will survive. Why Indigenous America fell. Their balance with the land was strong, but fragile against outside forces. Disease carried by strangers would cut through villages faster than any weapon. Wars, both among tribes and with outsiders, would drain their strength. Displacement and hunger would fracture what unity the land had given them. It was not weakness that doomed them, but the storm of pressures from beyond their horizon. And you were there. You saw their balance, their pride, their strength, and you left knowing that balance would not survive the tide that was coming. You wake to the sound of shouting, not a single voice but hundreds, echoing through narrow streets, bouncing off stone walls, colliding in a storm of noise. Somewhere nearby a cart rattles over cobblestones, its wooden wheels squealing. Dogs bark, a baby cries. When you open your eyes, you see plaster peeling from a wall above you, and beams of weak morning light spilling through a crack. You are lying on a straw mattress in a crowded room. The smell hits first. Sweat, damp straw, urine, smoke, and bread baking somewhere far below. Around you, people stir, pulling on worn tunics, coughing into their hands, grumbling as they step over one another in the dim light. You are in a Roman insula, a tall, crumbling apartment block where the poor are stacked floor above floor like clay jars in a storeroom. The air is thick and stale. The stairs creak under too many feet. Rome. Down in the street, the world explodes with life. Vendors shout their wares, fish still wet with scales, bread stacked in baskets, jars of oil and wine glinting in the sun. The air is a collision of smells, garlic sizzling in oil, smoke from braziers, sewage trickling down gutters, the sweet perfume of figs spilling from a broken basket. Merchants shout over each other in Latin, coins clink, and gladiators march past in iron and leather, faces hidden behind steel. Rome looms like a living beast around you, endless, hungry, unstoppable. But you know that even the mightiest beasts can fall, and Rome carries the weight of its own undoing. You taste your breakfast, a crust of stale bread dipped in watered wine. It is dry, hard, but it softens on your tongue. Beside you, a boy licks honey from his fingers, stolen from a jar when the vendor turned his back. His mother pretends not to notice. You walk through the market, pressed by elbows and shoulders, your feet splashing through puddles of who knows what. Shouts rise in Latin, laughter follows. Somewhere a flute plays a thin tune, almost swallowed by the roar of the city. Rome is alive, restless, impossible to silence. By midday the sun beats down and the streets grow hotter, louder. Crowds surge toward the Colosseum, drawn by the promise of games. You follow, carried by the current of bodies. The arena looms ahead, massive stone arches towering into the sky, banners snapping in the wind. Inside, the noise is thunder. Tens of thousands roar at once, their cheers shaking the very ground. You feel it in your chest, a vibration like the pulse of the earth. On the sand below, gladiators fight. Steel flashes, shields crash, blood darkens the dust. The crowd roars with every strike, every fall. You watch men bleed for the amusement of others, their lives traded for bread and entertainment. You want to look away, but the crowd's hunger drags your eyes back. Beside you, a man tears bread in half, laughing as though nothing matters but the spectacle. He offers you a piece. You take it, chewing slowly, the coarse grain sticking to your teeth, the roar of death and glory echoing in your ears. You whisper, "This will not last. Bread and games will not save you. Rome will fall." The man smirks, wine staining his lips. "Rome is eternal, don't you know?" And the crowd drowns your words. Later you wander through Rome's back alleys. The glamour fades here. The air is thick with rot, with smoke, with sewage running in narrow channels. The walls are damp, painted with graffiti. Children with thin arms and hollow eyes beg for coins. Rats dart between piles of refuse. You pass taverns where men gamble, women sing, and drunks sprawl in shadows. Laughter collides with coughing, smoke clings to everything. And then you hear it, rumors whispered, voices lowered. Soldiers grumble of pay delayed. Merchants complain of taxes too heavy, of corruption in the Senate, of trade routes cut by war. The empire stretches wide, but its weight is heavy. Cracks begin in whispers before they shatter in screams. You know what comes. Invasions pressing at borders, leaders drunk on power, wealth in the hands of a few while the many hunger. You know this city, so loud, so alive, will one day fall silent, its stones broken, its glory a memory. Night falls. You climb back to the insula, the stairs swaying beneath too many feet. Fires flicker in the distance. The sky glows with the haze of smoke, but stars still pierce through. Inside the cramped room, families settle on straw mats. The air is sour, warm, crowded. Someone snores, someone whispers a prayer. You lie on your back, staring into the darkness, the weight of the city pressing against your chest. And you think of what you know, that Rome's hunger for conquest will stretch it too thin, that its reliance on slaves will hollow its core, that corruption will rot its senate, its emperors more concerned with power than people, that outsiders, the barbarians the crowd mocks, will one day march through these very streets. You close your eyes, hearing the distant roar of the Colosseum still echo in your skull. Rome believes itself eternal, but you have seen enough eternity to know nothing lasts forever. Why Rome fell? Overexpansion stretched it beyond repair. Economic cracks widened. Reliance on slaves, crushing taxes, corruption. Entertainment masked hunger, but only for a while. Invasions came, and with them the illusion of eternity collapsed. Rome, the eternal city, became ruins, its stones scattered, its voices silent. And you? You were there for one day. You tasted its bread, breathed its smoke, heard its roar, and you left knowing it would all crumble into shadows. The dream of Rome fades. Stone arches dissolve into mist. The roar of the crowd fades into silence. You open your eyes to darkness, not the clean, quiet dark of night, but a heavy, choking murk. The air tastes of coal. You cough. When the mist clears, you see narrow streets stretching before you, slick with rain and soot. Gas lamps glow faintly, their light blurred by fog so thick it seems to press against your skin. The cobblestones gleam with oil and filth. A carriage rattles past, wheels splashing black water. Horses snort, their hooves clattering, their breath steaming in the cold. You are in London, Victorian London, and the curse has followed you here. By morning, the city wakes with groans and clatter. The factories begin to roar, tall chimneys belching smoke into a sky already thick with it. You feel it coat your tongue, sink into your lungs, weigh down your chest. Crowds press through narrow streets, men in soot-stained coats, women in shawls, children barefoot, their toes black with grime. Carts rattle with coal, barrels roll with ale, boots splash through gutters where sewage runs. The smell is a brutal mixture: smoke, sweat, horse dung, stale beer, and the iron tang of blood from butchers' stalls. Carriages rattle by, wheels clattering against uneven stones, while pale children with hollow eyes scurry past, barefoot, clutching scraps of bread. London is alive with ambition and empire. But beneath the noise, you feel the quiet hunger, the coughing of sickness, the trembling of a world straining under its own progress. You take breakfast like they do, bread hard as stone, dipped in weak tea. Some are luckier. Rich men in tall hats dine on meat, eggs, and oysters. But in the alleys, the poor gnaw crusts, clutching their bellies as factory bells toll. You walk through the heart of the city, past Westminster's proud towers, past gentlemen striding with canes and silk cravats. But the further you wander, the darker it grows. In Whitechapel, the fog seems thicker. Shadows cling to walls. Children huddle in doorways, their faces pale, their ribs sharp under thin rags. Women call from corners, their voices hoarse, their eyes ringed with fatigue. Here, the curse is not distant. It is alive in every cough, every broken window, every hungry gaze. The Industrial Revolution gave London iron and steam, but it also gave smoke and silence. Silence where laughter should be. Silence where childhood should bloom. You hear it in the way footsteps quicken after dark, in the way doors bolt tight. And yet, life presses forward. You are swept into a market where hawkers cry over baskets of fish, eels writhing in shallow pans, potatoes tumble from burlap sacks. A boy sells roasted chestnuts from a brazier, their shells cracking, their steam sweet against the bitter air. You buy one, hold its warmth in your palm, taste its smoky sweetness. For a moment, it is comfort. For a moment, London feels alive. But then, a scream shatters the air. In an alley, a woman is shouting. A man lies crumpled at her feet, his face pale, his lips blue. Around his body, people gather, whispering of cholera, of fever, of the water pump poisoned again. The city swells with bodies, but it cannot hide the sickness festering inside it. You know the truth, that clean water is scarce, that sewage seeps into wells, that death travels quietly through every drop. Londoners whisper prayers, cross themselves, and step quickly away. But tomorrow, another will fall. The curse does not spare this city. By evening, the fog thickens until it swallows even sound. You walk blindly through streets that seem to bend and change. Gas lamps flicker like dying stars. Somewhere, church bells toll, their notes muffled. You pass workhouses where the poor line up, their faces blank with hunger. Inside, they will find bread, broth, and a bed of straw, but at the price of their freedom, their dignity. Families separated, children stripped from mothers, men locked away to toil. Charity sharpened into chains. You pass taverns where smoke coils thicker than the fog outside, where men drown despair in gin, their laughter brittle, their eyes hollow. Dice clatter on wooden tables, voices rise and crash. The smell of spilled liquor and sweat clings to your skin. You hear whispers of Jack the Ripper, the names spoken with fear, of murders in Whitechapel, of women found butchered in the night. The city shudders, but still it moves, still it breathes, still it works. The curse does not bring silence. It brings a strange, stubborn persistence, the struggle to survive in shadows. Night deepens. You find yourself on the banks of the Thames. The river glistens black, reflecting dim lights from the bridges above. Barges drift, their lanterns glowing faintly, their cargo hidden in shadow. The water smells of rot, of refuse, of smoke carried on damp air. You look at London stretched before you, the spires, the chimneys, the endless fog swallowing all. It seems unshakable, eternal, but you know better. You know that the empire it commands is built on smoke and steel, on colonies drained of wealth, on backs bent in factories, that its streets, though lit with lamps, hide shadows deep enough for suffering to thrive, that progress brings not only light, but hunger and sickness, the cost hidden beneath banners of power. Like Rome before it, London believes itself eternal, but even empires built on iron rust in time. You return to the lodging where you first arrived, one of the many crowded tenements tucked into an alley. Inside, the air is stale with sweat and damp clothes. Families huddle on straw mattresses, their breaths clouding in the cold. Somewhere a baby cries. Somewhere else, a cough rattles like a warning bell. You lie down among them, staring at the cracked ceiling as fog seeps through the window. The curse presses against your chest. You have seen this story before. Egypt, Greece, Rome, all thought themselves eternal. All fell. And as you drift toward sleep, you whisper into the smoky dark. Nothing lasts forever. Not even London.
The night in London lingers. Fog presses against the windows, thick and unmoving. The cries of the street fade into silence. You close your eyes, and once again the dream begins to dissolve. Stone, sand, marble, smoke. Each place you visited flickers before you in fragments. Egypt's sun-baked markets, Athens' marble debates, Rome's roaring games, London's fog-drenched alleys. You see their faces, merchants, philosophers, gladiators, factory children, all of them bound by the same thread, survival in the shadow of power. The curse is not a monster hiding in the dark. It is time itself. It is the weight that presses on all empires, all dreams. And then, light. Not firelight, not lamplight, not torches or gas lamps, but the cold, steady glow of something modern. You wake in your own bed. The hum of machines, the distant roar of traffic, the soft buzz of electricity surrounds you. The world outside is not Egypt or Greece or Rome or London. It is now. You sit up, breathing the air of the present, an air that feels cleaner, freer, brighter. But in the stillness you wonder, how different is this world, truly? You walk to your window. Skyscrapers rise where temples once stood. Neon lights burn where gas lamps once flickered. Screens glow where scrolls and books once carried wisdom. We live in towers of glass instead of stone,
We drink water filtered and clean, yet the same divisions of wealth and hunger stretch across the earth. Our factories are quieter, yet the planet itself groans beneath their smoke. The curse still lingers, softly, invisibly, woven into the way civilizations rise higher, always believing themselves eternal. But nothing lasts forever. You remember Egypt's bustling markets where families haggled over bread. You remember Greece's philosophers, certain their words would echo forever. You remember Rome's roaring games, so powerful, so absolute. You remember London's endless smoke, believing its empire unshakable. And all of them, dust now, echoes, whispers swallowed by time. You return to your bed, the hum of the modern world steady in your ears. Yet sleep will not come easily, not after the journey you have taken. You close your eyes and ask yourself the question that will not leave you. If Egypt fell, if Greece fell, if Rome fell, if London's empire fell, what will become of us? Will America's lights, Europe's towers, Asia's engines, all that we build and treasure someday lie in ruins, whispered only in stories? When the curse of time comes for us, who will be there to dream our cities, to walk through our shadows, to ask if we too believed we would last forever?